Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. I'm so excited to have you here for a brand new Whimsy Stamps release. We're going to be using the new Slimline ATC Windows die, the Slimline Broken Web Embossing folder, some new Slimline Halloween paper, and the very adorable Cocoon clear stamp set. So I'm using this striped paper from the new Surreally Cool Halloween paper pack, and I'm using the largest of my Slimline ATC window die. Now this die barely fits on this paper. I'm just using it to make sure I can have a curved corner that matches this die. So I am lining it up as best as I can and using some mint tape to hold that in place. And there you can see I have that die and embossed look from the actual slimline die. And then I'm using the next size down to die cut out my spider web that I embossed on some super strong vellum paper. So I have a Gemini Junior and it adds a ton of pressure. So in order to emboss vellum paper, I have to make sure it's super sturdy. I use another frame to cut out a rectangle out of some vanilla cream cardstock, and I'm going to do all my stamping on this same cream cardstock. And this is an extra piece from cutting out my slimline card base, which is 7.5 by no, it is 8.5 by 3.5 once scored. So on this extra piece of cardstock, I've stamped my images and my sentiment using some VersaFine ink in Onyx black. And I'm going to go ahead and set my sentiment aside and grab my two stamped images of my spider and my little people in their cocoons, or I should say dinner for my spider. And I'm using my Zig Clean colors just to add some subtle color onto my spider and my cocooned people, and using my blender pen just to kind of blend that color out so it's not such a harsh line. I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut all of these images out, leaving a small border around my images, and then I can start assembling. So I am going to kind of lay out how I think my card's going to go, and then I will grab my adhesives and get started. So I'm going to glue down this stripe paper directly to my card base. Like I said, that is 8.5 by 3.5, and I'm just going to use that wet glue and just use the edge of my card here to make sure that that paper fits on there perfectly. Next, I'm going to glue down my embossed piece of vellum, and in order to do that, I'm going to use some adhesive sheets. These are really old from Sizzix, but I will have a link to my basic supply list down below where I would recommend using some scrapbook.com sheets or their huge roll of adhesive. These are just old and I'm trying to use at my stash. I'm not even sure if Sizzix still makes these, to be honest. So I'm trimming down my adhesive sheets, that way it will fit perfectly behind my piece of vellum. And the reason I'm doing this is because if the adhesive is completely behind my background and not in just weird certain spots, it's not as visible and you can't really see any edges of your adhesive like if you're using wet glue or a tape runner. So I'm going to peel up the release paper now that it is nice and secured to my vellum paper, and I will adhere this down to the center of my card base on top of that striped paper. Now if you notice, because my embossing kind of broke there on the edge there, a piece of that spider web popped out, I'm just going to glue that right back in because it already has that adhesive on there. No big deal, you can't even tell. And the reason why it did break is because, again, I have a Gemini and that thing puts a ton of pressure onto what you're die cutting or embossing. So it's just a piece that didn't quite make it, I guess you could say, but it's totally fine. You can't even tell that it popped out. I went ahead and glued down my two little people in their food cocoons down with wet glue towards the left, and I popped up my spider towards the middle and my sentiment on the bottom right. Now I want to add a little bit of fun, so I'm going to bring out my creepy Sparkletz blend here, and I'm going to use my wet glue and a jewel picker to adhere some of these rhinestones down, as well as these fun shimmery orange sequins. Couldn't think of the word, sequins. So I'm just going to put those all over the card and use my jewel picker and wet glue to adhere those down. And there is my super simple card. I just wanted to show off the new products today, and I hope you enjoy the new Halloween goodies just like I am. You can use my links down below in the description to check out what I used, and I hope you'll like this video if you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you're new here, I hope you've been inspired to subscribe and come back. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.